All right, guys, welcome back to the Whiskey Shaman Podcast. We have a very special guest tonight. We have Jesse from Still It. If you have been around my channel for a minute, you know all about Jesse by now. Sorry, I'm trying to turn the damn microphone off. Let me just introduce him and we'll get stuck into it. All right, here's Jesse.
Hey, Randall, how the heck are you, man? Always good to talk to you.
I am amazing. It's hot as hell in here, but it's all good. It's 104 outside, so yeah.
Ouch.
Fahrenheit, that is, not Celsius. 104 Celsius, we'd all be dead. So
I'm gonna do the F to C real quick. Oh, that's okay. 40. Yeah, that's pretty warm, dude. Yeah, and I imagine that's some pretty intense dry heat there too.
Well, actually, it's really humid. So
oh, really?
Yeah, okay. It's really we had a bunch of rain here, so it's really humid, and so the grass grew real tall and then it died. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll do the whole where everybody can find you at the end. But tell a little bit about yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure, man. I am now a full-time YouTuber, which is all of the things, to be honest. I feel super freaking lucky, blessed, honored. Any other descriptor you want to throw at it, I feel it. It is the best job I've ever had. I absolutely love it. I got the best boss in the world because it's this guy, and I get to make the decisions.
I saw her walking around. You're not the boss.
Oh yeah, there's that too. But the problem, there's kind of a flip side to that as well, right? Like, I'm also the worst boss in the world, often to myself. A week or so ago, I was editing till 5:30 in the morning from 8:30, 9 o'clock at night straight. But then today I got to go and, take the morning off and go down and watch the kids had their speech and poetry competition at school, and we just got to go and chill and watch that. So it's not a traditional job at all. It's a very different lifestyle, I guess, if you want to throw that name on it. But it's great, man. It's awesome. And it gives us opportunities to do all sorts of other things. Erin, my wife's got her own sort of stuff on the side. She's published a children's book and has it's the NZ Family Shop. So she runs kind of like a retail store for kids as well. And it just means that we can kind of pull resources and platforms, and it's a weird sort of snowball that just slowly builds in terms of different opportunities. And the thing I love about it is I learned quite a long time ago that, well, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, that I don't really have hobbies. Like, all the things that I do that I enjoy, I love them, don't get me wrong. Like, I fly FPV, that's fun. I've just started playing disc golf, that's fun. Distilling's fun. But at the end of the day, it's not really those things. It's the problem solving that I enjoy. It's that weird mix of feeling accomplished that you've done something, combined with the angst that you don't know what you don't know. And there's the better version of you that's just over the horizon, and there's hurdles, there's problems, there's issues to get through in between. And doing what we do, because we do it all ourselves for the most part, it constantly throws up new problems to solve, to learn about. That's what keeps it fresh for us. But yeah, if you wanted to talk more about the specifics, dude, like the whole what do you do is the question I dread most around the dinner table.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can talk for hours in any one direction, and chances are no one sitting at the table will have any idea what you're talking about when it comes to YouTube.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. And you have the same, not the same type, but I am self-employed as well in my day job. So I do get some of that freedom, like you say. Like yesterday, I went to do a podcast in Austin with the Last American Podcast. I'm giving away spoilers for another podcast. Anyway, that's a future episode I'm talking about already. But yeah, I got the ability to do that. Then I went and hung out with Moose at Andalusia, stuff like that. So like getting the ability to do those things and still be able to do your job, that's a pretty amazing thing. And if you can be your own boss, it's the worst and the best, but at the same time, it's, it's worth it in the end for sure.
Totally. It just means you get to decide what's important, right? It's not, oh no, I can't go to that speech competition today because my boss will be pissy at me. It's, you know what, sorry kids, I'm gonna have to miss this one because in my mind it's actually worth sacrificing me showing up today, so whatever, so I can show up to the next three, or so we can pay the mortgage, or whatever the issue is. It just means it's up to you. You still have the same issues, it's still all the same problems, it's just what's important to you, and you get to make the decision on it. But the flip side of that is, school holidays and public holidays and all that stuff suddenly mean nothing.
Right, exactly. So I guess one of the things I wanted to start to tell people that come on the podcast is, what is the whiskey that you're into right now? Not your favorite, not the one that you go to all the time, but the one you're really, really on right now. Do you have one of those?
I'll be honest with you, mate. I wouldn't say I've gone off whiskey at all. It's still like single malt, still my first love when it comes to spirits. Bourbon's always been a little bit of an interesting thing for me. I do quite enjoy bourbon. It's just really hard for us to justify buying it here in New Zealand.
Yes, right.
Because we get Scotch for pretty close to the same price as America and Scotland, just with the currency exchange.
Right.
But bourbon is hellishly expensive here.
Really?
We'd be paying probably $60 for I don't know, any of the standard like Maker's Mark or Gentleman Jack, or 60, $70 for that,
Okay.
So it's hard to justify walking in and going, oh, there's, Lafroig 10 for $55, or I could get Maker's Mark for more. I'll splash out and get I don't know, whatever, like get a nice bottle of age statement Port Charlotte for a little bit more. So I do struggle a little bit with bourbon. But I got to say, lately absinthe has been an alluring mistress.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
There's just something about that. There's something about the fact that there's not really commercial examples that you can go out and buy. There's something about, I don't know, dude, the kind of alchemy, lore history of it that's enticing. That's fun for me, but more so it's a whole new set of ingredients and botanicals to play with and flavor mixes that I just don't really understand personally.
Right.
So that's been tempting me a lot. And then things also that are I tried a really interesting, I can't remember the name of it, smoky gin out of Japan a little while ago, and that really blew me away. I was at a bar, and the bartender came over, who happened to be the head mixologist at the place as well. Shout out to Brew Union and Palmy. It's like, yo, Jesse, you need to come try this. I know you like whiskey. This is the ultimate gin for whiskey drinkers. And I said, sure, sir, if you want to pour me a drink.
Right, exactly.
Hit me. And it was, dude, it was very much, it was like, I wouldn't say it was quite Ardbeg Lafroig levels of smoke, but it wasn't far off. And it was still gin. So that really hit me as well. So all of that to say, I've completely dodged your question.
It's fine. It's fine. No. And it's one of those things like, okay, I'll give you an example. For me, it's the Saints Alley, which is this is the Herald, but it's finished in Armagnac and Pinot de, I don't know how to say the last word. It's a French word. It's wine cask finished, and oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And I found this somewhere because even though I'm in Texas, it's really hard for me to find Iron Root, and so it's like it's distillery only, or they have one bottle and everybody buys it, So, but yeah, so I get the Saints Alley, and it's a close second. It's not as good, but I've been jamming on that. But I was talking to my wife earlier about asking you this question, and I was like, but I have like 20 bottles open, and I go through each one of them. I don't have one that I'm like really, I'm going to have 3 pours of that. It's like, I just kind of go all over the place. So yeah, it was kind of a hard question for me to ask myself as well. So yeah, anyway, but so yeah.
Well, I've got that bottle actually, dude, the Saint
do?
Sally. And
Really?
when you said, should we try and find, look, behind the curtains, guys, Randall texted me before this and was like, should we find a bottle that we've both got? And I almost said that because I've been really enjoying it as well. The Armagnac ideas. It's similar to the absinthe. And I was like, oh no, he probably like, that seems a little bit more obscure. It's probably not something you'd have. I was like, oh, he'll have the Harbinger though.
Wait, you want to get into the Harbinger? We can do that right now.
Yeah, sure, man. Let's pour a dram. I don't know, dude. Like, I've just gone through a little bit of a phase of I just haven't been buying a whole lot of whiskey lately.
Yeah, I get it. I on the other hand have been buying all the whiskey. So Lord, my bottle count has gone up so much in the past 8 months. I'm like, oh my God, I need to stop. I really need to stop.
I'm very much the same though. Even when it wasn't so long ago, we probably had, I don't know, maybe a bar of 20 open bottles, and we've slowly drunk through that. We've been trying to put a lot more money back into building projects in the future, so that the whiskey budgets hurt a little bit for that.
Yeah,
but I've always kind of found myself drifting towards the side of, in a lot of ways, I'd rather drink something that, it sounds so weird, but I would rather drink something that's different or strange or something that I think I can learn from than something that's yum. A lot of the time, like a lot of the interest for me in whiskey is it's yum. Like, sure, yum fact is awesome, and then the social fact is great as well. Being able to talk to people about something, and like, how cool is this, right, dude? We're on the opposite side of the world, and we're sitting here with 2 glasses that they're probably not, let's face it, not identical, but they're pretty damn close. And the fact that we can share this together and geek out on it is awesome.
Yeah.
But the idea of saying, you know what, I've never tried that before, or you know what, I've heard one person say that's terrible and one person say that's amazing. Like, I may not like it, but give me that bottle. I tend to drink like that a lot more than just reaching for something that's yum. So I get it.
And okay, so for the listeners at home, if you don't know Jesse, he has a YouTube channel that he in New Zealand. It is legal to distill, and he has he has a home distillation catalog going back like 6 years. You can go from the very beginning when he was the baby beard and all that. You can go way back there and get started. And then he's kind of gone through this progression of making all these really cool projects and doing stuff like that. And we got together, oh Lord, a long time ago. I probably through the Whiskey Vault or something like that. I started, and see, the bad thing for me, and I've been really trying to change this in my social media thing. I hate social media. I hate YouTube. I hate all of that. And so it's really hard for me to like respond to somebody or comment on a video or something like that. So I've been really diligent in the last year about responding and getting back with people. So that's a real thing. So I was looking back at older videos of yours, back at the first like 10 videos, and there was no post. And I was like, I know I've seen all these videos, so it's not like I wasn't back there. And so I've been following Jesse for a long time, and we've developed a friendship through the years. We got to meet each other in Austin a couple of times. And so I totally understand where he's coming from. He likes to try the different things because in his now job, he's able to make spirits and make funky gins and make all these crazy things, distill mouthwash and anyway, stuff like that.
That may not have been one of my brightest ideas.
Yeah, well, so sometimes
it gets a nudge.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's, you got to try it. But
I tried it so you don't have to.
Exactly.
In fact, I think that may have been the title of the video. It was foul, dude.
Yeah.
Foul.
So anyway, so what got you into distilling? Basically, I guess is the question to ask.
It was a weird route, dude. It was multiple things. I was home brewing, and I wouldn't say I was amazing at it, but I did have the help of. Well, it's funny actually. I've pretty much fallen out of contact with him now, but he's one of those guys that whenever I get a chance to catch up with him, he's just such an awesome dude that I it feels like we're back to square one. And that's Matt from Brave Brewing Company in Hastings. And when he found out I was home brewing, he basically said, "No friend of mine's going to brew shit beer." And he jumped in the car and came down and stayed for the weekend and gave me a crash course in our crappy little student flat. And that really, I guess that was like one of the really big seeds of like, oh crap, it's not just beer, it's so much more. And that sort of sparked a love of both enjoying good craft beer and the whole side of, well, I guess it was the origin to what I was just talking about, right? Like drinking things that are different and then enjoying the conceptual side, not in like a weird wanky way, but just it doesn't just have to be about yum. It can be about the fun factor of trying to figure out how they did it, why they did it, why is this different to that. So that was a big part of it. And then another big part was I always liked the idea. I've worked in a buttload of kitchens. I love cooking. I love messing with flavors and the concept of food. And because of that, I always loved the idea of cocktails. And
Absolutely.
I really loved the idea of being able to very quickly, it's kind of the same experience as cooking for someone, but you can do it for someone like, I was going to say 15 times in a night. That might be a little bit excessive, but you get the idea, right? It's like it's like cooking, but on a faster sort of turnaround in an evening. Like, try this. I never had the money to just have a bar full of spirits though. And, anytime you look up a cocktail thing, it's like the first thing you need to do is go out and buy these 6 bottles. I was like, well, there's just no way into that for me. So in the back of the mind, I kind of had this idea of, well, I'm already making beer. Maybe I can make spirits to get into cocktails. And then I was working at a job that was really cool. And then they sold the company and it turned to shit pretty much overnight. And I was working as a commercial photographer and editor, and then doing commercial photography on the side. And it just turned to crap. There was no ladder to climb. There was nowhere to go. A lot of the more creative stuff got taken away from us. So I needed some form of outlet. And that was about the time where I realized that I didn't really enjoy hobbies. I liked learning. And anytime I'd ever learned anything, it was from YouTube. Like all of the hobbies I did, all of the stuff I'd learned was either YouTube or podcasts. So I got this crazy idea in my head. Fuck it. Like if I'm going to start another hobby, instead of whatever, like I'd go on random bends of like, I'm going to learn how to do fire staff twirling or whatever you call it.
Right.
And I'd get kind of good at it and then get bored at it and realize I just wasted a year of my life for no outcome, like it was fun.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to do that again, let's do something that I can geek out on and enjoy. And if I keep doing it, maybe we get some money from it instead of just now I can spin a fire stick,
Yeah. Did you really do that?
Yeah. It's good fun, man. It's like,
That's funny.
And there was like hacky sack and yo-yo and all sorts of like random stuff I just randomly get into, and then do it for a year and get over it. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Randall's like, oh, now I'm judging this guy.
No, come on. Never.
Yeah, so I decided I wanted to, I was like, screw it, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And the idea of the like all of the behind the scenes stuff, like the algorithm, the like learning new skills in terms of videography, like brushing up on oratory skill, like all of that stuff, storytelling was exciting for me, but I didn't know what I was going to make the YouTube channel in. And I kind of made, I think it was pretty much like 3 business models. Like I wrote out business plans for kind of 3 different styles of YouTube channels.
Right.
And one of them was homebrewing. One was distilling. No, actually, sorry. One was homebrewing. And then when I started checking it out, I was like, this is it's kind of overserved and undervalued in a lot of ways. Like there's a lot of people doing homebrew channels and none of them are really taking off as much as they should be. And then I thought, well, I always wanted to distill spirits. Maybe I make the jump over to spirits. And then I started looking into that. And that was the point in time where I realized, oh, this is legal in New Zealand and it's illegal everywhere else. And from there, it was kind of a no-brainer. Like I've got this giant leg up on pretty much everyone, in terms of New Zealand versus the world. I've got this giant advantage. I can do this and not worry about someone with 3 letters on their back kicking my door in, mid-video or mid-editing session.
Yeah.
And there was, I think at the time there was Barley and Hops, and there was another channel. There was another channel maybe out of Poland or something that had made a few videos, and one out of Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And all 3 were doing okay. One of them was actually doing really well, and they stopped publishing videos for ages. So it was kind of the confirmation to me, like there's almost no one doing this, and the ones that are doing it are getting more view. Like they're getting, how do you put it? The quality of videos they were making was lower than homebrewing, but the views they were getting were higher.
Right.
Yeah. So and that was it, dude. I was like, oh, screw it. So I started the channel, jumped in, and I started making videos before I'd even built the still, let alone distilled a drop of alcohol.
And that's what's really cool is like seeing the process of of course, when you're getting into a new hobby, you do all this background and stuff like that, and you do all this research, and you go on all the Reddits and the forums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then once you start actually doing it, there's a huge learning curve no matter what. So you have to start somewhere and then just fail and fail and fail and get back up and fail and do it again. And
totally.
But you were smart and you recorded all that. And you made it like, hey, don't be a dummy like I am. You said that, not my words, your words.
No, yeah, like totally.
Don't be a dummy like me. Don't do this, do this. And of course, anybody who followed you, they were like, no, I'm gonna end up doing that same thing, and I'm gonna fail and screw up as well. But that's beside the point. But yeah, it's just seeing the progress to what you have. I don't want to say built, the dynasty or whatever that you have built now, it's a pretty daunting feat when you look at it. Now, back then you were doing it as like a little hobby, and now this is a job. That's pretty amazing.
Totally. Yeah. The way it's hard, man. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, and there's different ways to get into distilling, and there's different ways to get into YouTube. We'll probably get the YouTube stuff out of the way first, because this isn't really a podcast about YouTube. But a lot of people will say you need to just do it because you love it, and I agree in that. Don't make a YouTube channel on something. Don't make a podcast on something that you don't care about, because you'll wake up one day and suddenly it is work, and it's a freaking grind, And don't get me wrong, I still love it. It's absolutely awesome. But when you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you've still got 3 hours worth of work to do to hit that deadline to get the video out, if it's on a topic you just don't care about, like, what are you doing, man? Like go get a salary job and, I don't know, figure out stock trading or something.
Yeah.
So there's that. But then the flip side of it is, if you're going to do it, it's cool to have a hobby and do it for fun. But if you're expecting to make it a job, it needs to be a job from day one. So my thing was, I started the channel. This is now another career, but I have the expectations of a hobby. So you can't expect to get paid, because it's like, well, it, dude, like working for yourself, effort and hard work in doesn't mean money out. It doesn't mean growth out. It does, like it's now completely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is results, and how hard you work or how much time you put into it doesn't matter at all. So I set myself a goal from day one. I had to make 52 videos, one video every week for a year. If I got 0 subscribers and 0 views, I had to make 52 videos. And then I had kind of like tiered goals of, if you do this good, or if you fail the first goal, quit, because you obviously suck at YouTube. If you get the second goal, you're at the end of the year, you're allowed to continue if you want to. And if you pass the third goal, then buckle up, bucko, because you're going for another 52 videos and you don't have a choice. And that was kind of the way I thought about it. And that, for me, the way I think, that made me have to treat it like a job. Like you can't miss deadlines. You have to do what you need to do. You have to put the work in, and every video has to be like 1% better than the last video.
Yep.
And they're gonna suck, right?
Yep.
Like, dude, go like anyone that's listening to this now, go back and watch my first 5 videos. They're cringy as hell. And there's nothing that I could want more for myself that in another 5 years I'll look at the videos that I'm making today and say, oh man, they suck. But yeah, if you don't have that mentality of it's a job, it's never going to be a job. In my like, obviously there's exceptions to that rule.
Right.
You know, someone will just make something and blow up. And it's, I don't know, dude, it's kind of that thing of you do need to be lucky to make it. Like I got really lucky a couple of times, but the only way you get lucky, it's like it was an overnight success after 4 years of hard work, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of all of those tropes that you could throw at it. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to go back to the distilling side, dude, I've never encountered a hobby that has such an intense learning curve at the beginning. There's just no, you know, most hobbies, there's a really easy entry point. You get into it and you're like, oh, this is fun. It's interesting. I can do this. And then you go along for about 6 months feeling good for yourself, or a month or whatever, and then suddenly realize that there's a big hill to climb to get to the next level. Distilling is just damn near vertical from day one, you know? It's like, where do you go?
Right.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, dude. It's
Yeah,
a real tricky one.
It is. Huh. Okay. Well, where do we go from here? Huh. So
sorry, yeah, I've derailed you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. So I've heard you say in a number of videos that if you could just make one spirit, it would be whiskey. And being that this is based upon whiskey, you said earlier that single malt was your favorite. Would there be a specific whiskey that you would make? Like, let's say you were able to open a distillery and that was your job now, and not the YouTube kind of fizzled off. What would you be making?
So if I could forget all of the marketing, market research, what's going to sell, what's not going to sell, who I'm competing with, price point, if I could forget all of that and just make, for me, it would be 2 things. It would be big PD Isla style single malts. That's my go-to. So many people I hear that they're like, oh yeah, I tried that stuff and it just tasted like, you know, like a burning mermaid, and I don't know. And then suddenly 2 years later, they're like, oh, actually it is delicious.
Yeah.
I put my nose into a glass of Lafroig 10 for the first time and said, oh, this is now my drink, you know. And it's just, I've enjoyed it more and more and more since then. And then gave about a year and a half later, I gave a glass to my wife and she did the same thing. So we're just all in on the peat now. Wow. Love it. Absolutely love it. So big peat bombs. And then to flip to the other side, cask finish stuff, specifically port. There's something about a port finished whiskey. I just freaking love it. Yep. So those would be the 2 things. And obviously, you know, like port finished smoky whiskeys for sure. But I also enjoy just like a big, sticky, decadent, something that doesn't have to be, how do you put it? It's just a little bit more understated, but luxurious at the same time than a peated malt. But for my sanity, I then have to do weird ass things on the side. Like they would be the main things. And then, oh, by the way, we just made an absinthe, or, oh, by the way, we just made a gin and put seawater in it. Or I'd have to, you know, just for sanity's sake. But those are my 2 loves, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was talking to Alan Bishop, you know, and if y'all don't know who he is, he's the man. He has Distillers Talk. If you have Ghosts, you have everything. He's in a whole bunch of different things. Spirits of French Lick. Anyway, but he was telling me that like he makes bourbon. If Spirits of French Lick, they make bourbon. They make high rye bourbons. They make all this stuff. But his is more the funky, like you're saying, the absinthe, the barrel aged gins, the he just made a pachuga, you know, like he's making all this crazy stuff. And he's like, that's what I want to do. I like to tinker. I don't really care so much about, yes, the bourbon is great. Don't get me wrong, the bourbon is great. But it's almost like once you get into the craft, that's the job. And then everything else is just, it's just the fun little side projects. And so that kind of leads me into the next question. You came into this, you know, wanting to make a single malt and doing all that. And you can look at the back catalog and see that you made the Bastard whiskey and all of those things. And then you came up with one that was the meme spirits. So tell us a little bit about the meme spirits.
So I don't know if I've ever actually told anyone this, Randall, but the original idea for meme spirits was exclusive. The original idea for meme spirits was, I can't remember exactly why, but at some point in time, I'd have to go back and check. It might have been when I first lost my job, when COVID first hit, or it could have been the first time I decided I wanted to put extra videos out for the Christmas season to kind of capitalize on ad spend going up and everything. But I decided I needed to do, I think I was trying to do 3 videos a week, which was a dumb idea in hindsight.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from it. So I needed, I needed more content per week, and making full length distilling videos is a giant pain in the ass because it can take 8 weeks to make one video, right? Which means I need to be making 3 videos a week 8 weeks before when I need the videos, which is kind of hard to plan for, because now I'm like doing that in school holidays the term before it just didn't work out. The flip side was that I can bang out just a talkie, hey, we're going to talk about like tasting the spirit that I've got on the shelf, or like, let's talk about a concept. I can bang those out pretty damn quickly. And I've gotten better and better at that over time. But the problem is, if you have too many of those on the channel, it just gets boring, right? Like people don't want to just watch me talk all the time. It's okay every now and again. It's throwing a bone to the regulars, the people that are actually hands-on with this stuff. They want to know about it, but it doesn't grow the channel. It barely sustains the channel, you know? So I needed something that was hands-on, that was quick. I was like, well, I've got all this spirit sitting around because I don't like drink a lot. I basically just sample these days. Like I just try stuff. And there's just spirit everywhere. And some of it's like, I just bottled the New Zealand peated whiskey. Awesome. Really proud of that. There's a bunch of other stuff out there that at this moment, it's just an experiment, right? I'm just going to let it go, see what happens to it. And then I'm probably going to stick it back into the faints container and turn it into neutral. It's like, well, screw it. Let's just throw something weird in the still, use that stuff. I don't have to do a ferment. I don't have to do stripping runs. I just do one distillation and I can bang a video out in a day instead of 8 weeks. And it's going to be maybe 5 or 6 hours worth of editing instead of 25 hours worth of editing. So that was the plan. I was like, screw it. I'll just do a couple of these like as a gimmick, do something that's a little bit more clickbaity in terms of like, everyone knows what Skittles are, right? Like Skittles distilling, like people will click on that.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. But it's turned into this really interesting thing of, for those of you that enjoy whiskey, but have never actually stood in front of a still as it's running, one of the weirdest things is the way that flavors fraction out into different parts of the run. And even weirder is that some flavors just get they get magnified and dialed up when you distill, whereas other flavors, they just disappear. They vanish. They never make it through the distillation process. So now suddenly I've got this tool to like throw bizarre flavors into a pot and see what comes out the other side. Chocolate biscuits, what happens? Like Vegemite, what happens? Skittles, Easter eggs, all these crazy things. And it's slowly building up this library of, oh, if there's chocolate, it's going to come out nearer the end of the run. That one's kind of like, most people that have distilled would have probably picked that, you know, but then there's other things like, like the marshmallow and the Easter eggs. I thought that was gonna make the whiskey like soft and silky and have this big vanilla flavor. It did almost nothing. It just vanished. But now I've got that in my brain, like, so now when I'm actually distilling something that I care about, it's just more data points in my head to be better at distilling in general,
Right. Right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's this. I mean, I'm totally preaching to the converted here, and probably anyone that's listening, but there is definitely like a wankery side of distilled spirits, and it's kind of fun just to obliterate that. Be like, if this is too goofy for you and too ridiculous, then maybe this isn't the channel for you guys. Like we'll go into the geekery side as hard as you want to in other videos, but every now and again, let's just have some fun,
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's good fun.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, like when I started this podcast, I said, I'm not going to take it serious. We're going to have fun with it. I'm going to be stupid. I'm going to let everything just roll. Like on the last podcast, I'm trying to, like you were talking earlier, you're trying to get 1% better each time you do it. So at the end, I had my little iPad and I was going to turn some music on at the end of the podcast and, like kind of have some outro music for me. Well, the damn music was so loud and I didn't know it. It was like, and I was like, oh God. And so instead of editing it out, I left it in there because I'm like, okay, it probably killed people, blew their eardrums, whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, that's the type of shit. I'm not trying to be polished Joe Rogan here. I'm trying to, we're trying to get this convey a message to somebody. And I've been watching old Whiskey Tribe videos back in the day, back when they were Whiskey Biscuits. I've been watching old videos about that. And they were talking about how it's just non-pretentious, banter. And that's kind of what I want this to be about. We're not trying to be, this is not a 101 class. This is not anything. Like on most of the stuff that I do, I talk about my day, my week, my month for 15 minutes before I even get into the damn thing. So, it's one of those things, but I think the whole mean spirits thing, like for the hardcore guys, they're like, okay, he distilled a birthday cake. That's cool. For me, it was awesome because I know your kids made it, and it was a sweet thing that you did. But like for the hardcore guys, they're like, okay, let's get to making something cool. But for everybody else, like even my wife, who could care less. She loves you, but she could care less, but
yeah, no, I feel
yeah, but she's like, did they distill Cadbury eggs? Yeah, they did. Like it's so that leads me to this other one. In looking through the back catalog, doing a little bit of research. I try not to do research for podcasts because it's just, I like to shoot from the hip, but I've noticed that like you don't have a whole lot of trolls that go on there, but there is some. And there was one, and I don't know if he was so much a troll or if he was just bashing. But on the last video, when you bottled the New Zealand Pete, and he was talking about how Texas whiskey isn't good, So it's like and because you had this bottle and you were like, I'm going to add a little bit to the mix and see what it tastes like. And so he was like lining up Texas whiskey and stuff like that. And of course, me being a Texas boy, I was like, no, we're not going to have that. So I mean, of course, I had to say something to him in a very respectful way. Of course, it's your show. I don't want to bust anybody's balls, but at the same time, I wanted to let him know that Texas whiskey isn't all just, over tannic BS. You know what I mean? It's not 2008 Garrison Brothers. It's not that. So
that's hilarious, dude. When I read that comment, that was the first thing that I was like, oh, he's talking about Garrison Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Now the listeners will know that I have an affinity for Garrison. It's a hate relationship, and I got given a bottle of the Cowboy bourbon, which is like their cast strength 8-year-old freaking. Oh gosh, it is so harsh, but like I finally started to realize that there's something there. And so I'm trying to give them a little bit of grace. And I have an old bottle sitting back here that somebody gave me, and it was half open. And it was one of the first ones from their distillery. And I tried it against some of the stuff that I have, night and day difference. So it's like, it just goes to show how the distilleries change over time. But yeah, I was just wondering, how do you deal with the trolls and the negative comments and stuff like that?
It's funny, man. Like my strategy's changed over time. And the thing that I realized really early on, it's kind of the same as Twitter or text messages, in that like 60 odd characters without facial expressions and without context is the worst way to communicate. So I read that comment too, and when I saw it, I'd already seen that you'd replied, and I kind of replied back, not snarkily, but just kind of like saying my piece. And then he wrote back again, and he was like, he wasn't trolling, he wasn't having a go, he was just stating his piece. And he's like super respectful, you know. And that's happened to me over and over and over again. So there's always this thing in my mind of like, how do you put it? There's also the thing where people feel like they know you, but you don't know them. So they show up and they'll say something where, like, so if you look through the Whiskey Tribe's comment section and took any one of those comments on average out of their video and put it into whatever, like Mark Rober's video, you would think, oh, this guy is literally an asshole, just trolling people.
Yes.
But from their point of view, they know that that's the community and that's how it works, right? So quite often you'll get people that are like, oh, we're all friends here and I'm just going to bust balls and be funny. But they forget that there's no context, and they don't slap a /s on the end, or like a winky face. So there's a lot of that, you know. There's also, from the beginning, I knew, and my mind's changed on this a lot now, but it's because I did the groundwork early. I knew when I started there was a very large potential for the outside world especially to perceive what I was doing in the way that a lot of people just think about distilling. It was going to look like overalls and banjos, basically.
That's where I was going to go next.
Yeah. So I did a lot early on to actively piss people off that I was worried were going to push the community in a way we didn't like. So I wanted youthful optimism. I wanted curiosity. I wanted problem solving. I wanted chasing the craft, not let's get drunk for cheap. This is the way Grandpappy did it. If you don't have a coon picker, you're doing it wrong. All of that kind of stuff. And it wasn't about the stuff. It was about the way people were saying it, the way people interacted, the way people presented themselves. So I actively put out videos that I knew were going to piss people off, just to get them off the channel and help build the community that we actively wanted early on. And I think that was right for then, because it was an emerging community coming out of other existing communities. And the fact that we've done that now means that now I've got the base to be like, yeah, cool. Like, I'm happy to do all this other stuff. Like apple pie was another one. I was like, I'm never making an apple pie, because the people that are into that, and I'm grossly generalizing, like over generalizing now. I didn't want to make apple pie because I didn't want to be associated with the scumbags that love apple pie, even though there's a whole lot of awesome people that love apple pie, which is now me and yourself and Alan Bishop. Do you know what I mean? But I needed to defend the base and create the community we wanted to. And I don't know, man, like, it's so lucky if you're on YouTube and looking through other YouTube things, the comment section can be an absolute cesspool. And for whatever reason, still it isn't. I went through a phase too of not actively taking the mickey out of, but kind of killing with kindness. So when I saw trolls, I'd like jump in and keep replying to them. And in my mind, you just can't beat me. They'll be like, this is wrong and this is wrong. And I'd talk to them for about 10 comments and then just be like, thanks for all the support. And they're like, we don't support you. We hate you. We think you're an idiot. I'm like, yeah, dude, but you just gave me like 15 data points for YouTube to say that this is a great video because you've now left 15 comments on my channel. They're like, oh, no, you suck. I'm like, dude, thank you. Thank you so much. And it's basically like, yeah, you can either shut the fuck up because that's the only way you can beat me. Like, shut up and never come and see another video of mine. Or you can keep coming here and like looking at videos and, oh, I gave him a thumbs down. Thanks, dude. That's actually a positive. That helps me too.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of that. And unfortunately now it's just got to the point where I just can't even really look at comments anymore. There's just too many of them. Like up until probably 2.5, 3 years ago, I prided myself on reading every single comment and at least giving a thumbs up and a heart or a thumbs up and a comment or whatever to everyone. I just can't anymore.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of a case of I'll always skim through the comments and get a vibe of what's going on, because it's hard too, dude. Like so the video I'm about to put up tomorrow, there's probably a solid 65, 70 hours worth of work that have gone into it.
Holy shit.
Plus all the little extra, just going out to the shed and checking on the fermentation time as well. It's almost an hour long. So when you make something like that and put it up, and then like the first comment's a negative reaction to it, like it's hard not to knee jerk to that. So now it's more a case of I always skim through the comments. I always read through them. And anytime I get a comment that really sticks in my head and I get angry at, I know that it's probably because deep down I know they're right. And I did half-ass something, or the editing was bad, or yeah, dude, you're right, the audio was kind of shit in that video, or yeah, dude, you're right, I didn't explain that properly. Whatever. So now for me, it's more a case of I need to stay in touch with what people want. I need to stay in touch of how people are interacting with and perceiving what I say. And it's not that I need to give the people what they want, because it's a dumb way to like kill a channel in my mind a lot. But I need to keep learning. I need to keep evolving, right? And yeah, so it's a fine line. It's hard, man. Like, and I'm sure you've experienced it too. You'll get 15 positive comments, and you're like, "Oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool." And then one guy sees you suck. You're like, "Oh, fuck that guy."
Yeah.
And for the next week, all you think about is that one comment. And it's like, dude, like, there's 15 people that loved it, but that's just not the way our brains are wired. So, it's just a necessary evil of the job we're in.
Yeah. And the bad thing is, like, I'm just getting into all this, this data point, and I've had really positive feedback from everybody, and that's great. I'm actually waiting for the trolls, because that means you're doing something right. When you have people that hate what you're doing, you're doing something right. The issue is getting past that, continuing doing what you're doing the best thing that you can, and trying to get a good product out there to the people. And and we can just hope and pray that that's what we're doing. And you look at the positive comments, and then you say, okay, they say I need to, because a lot of them are critiques as well. So they're like, hey, your audio was a little loud, but I love the content or whatever. So like, yes, I'll tweak stuff like that, but like a lot of, I'm actively waiting for the ones that start just saying, oh, this is trash, blah, blah, blah. Because my daughter has a YouTube page, and that was anyway, long story short. She blew up, and she had like a lot of followers. And I told her, baby, do you realize that maybe all those followers aren't real? Maybe they're just bots, and they're troll bots, and they just go in there because like they were leaving some nasty comments. And and I'm like, what in the world is going on? And so we had to have, a full sit down and be like, this isn't real. Half of these people are real. And you can tell in like the views of the videos that she had, and I'm sure you see it as well. You might have this many followers, but yet only this many views on the thing. And it's like, if I have that many followers, why are they not watching the video? So it's kind of a strange thing. But I wanted to go back to the whole moonshine hillbilly thing real fast, because there is a stigma for distilled products in general, especially home distilled products, to where it's just moonshine, white dog, nasty crap, bathtub gin, and they don't see the people that are like your moniker is chase the craft. They don't see people chasing the craft and actually trying to make good product out there. And they're not trying to sell it. You're not trying to, put it on the black market and bootleg it out of your truck and shit like that. You're not trying to do that. You're just trying to become a better distiller, to where if you wanted to go out and do this commercially, you could. And why do you think there's such a bad stigma on home distillation in general?
I mean, there's so many different parts to it, dude. Like, there's so many. I think a lot of it now it's kind of like the pirate thing, it's weird. Like, you watch kids programs and the pirates are all the good guys. Like, that ain't what they are. They're raping and pillaging. Like, that's what a pirate is. But there's this weird, there's enough of a draw to the lifestyle that it's romanticized. And I think it's similar with home distilling. It goes hand in hand with the rebel outlaw, like moonshine runners kind of thing. And there's something cool about that. It's badass. There's something cool about it. There's something sexy about it, I guess. I don't know what it is. And it's almost like a self-perpetuating cycle. Once that is then a thing, then it turns into a thing in all of our pop culture, right? And then, dude, you talk to the random person from California or from New Zealand, what contact have they ever had with what they assume a home distiller is? It's only from movies and TV shows and books and all of that sort of stuff. Right. So I think there's a big part of that. I also think there's just a huge amount of misunderstanding, and bad information out there that's just stuck around and been parroted on, and that's what gets attached to it. I think there's also, like you say, a complete misunderstanding of why people do it, right? Like, well, why are you making spirits at home? I guess that guy just gets drunk all the time. We've had people come here for play dates with their kids, and they'll walk in the door and you'll see them like getting all sketched out because there's 15, 20 bottles of spirits just randomly sitting around. They're like, oh, these guys are alcoholics. If I was an alcoholic, the bottle wouldn't be there. The bottle's been sat there for 6 months. I'm just messy and not that organized. And, that's what I do for work. So I think all of those things combined, and there's this weird thing with spirits too. I'm sure you've come across this a bunch.
Yeah.
Someone will come over for dinner. You'll be like, oh, would you like a drink? Yeah, sure. What do you want? Oh, you can have a beer, you can have a wine. I've got a whiskey. Oh, no, I'm driving. I won't have the whiskey. I'll have the beer. It's like, it's a standard drink one way or the other, mate.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's not going to get up and like rip your throat out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but it's real strong. Yeah, but this is.
Yeah, I'm not going to pour you 8 ounces of
it. Oh, but it's whiskey. It's whiskey, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that ticks over too. Like, quite often when people try it, they almost think the way to impress you and say that it's good is to go on about how strong it is. It's like, no, like, you've missed the point,
Yeah.
So I think all of that rolled together. It's I don't know, man. It's a weird thing. And the sad part about it is that in that, how I was saying I actively avoided a large part of the culture for a long time. I'm now actively trying to reach back out to that in interesting ways. So when the Licorice Brothers put me in touch with Alan Bishop, first of all, when you say to the Licorice Brothers, hey, is there anyone I should talk to? And they go, Alan Bishop, he's the first on the list. You need to talk to him. You go, yes, sir. Okay, put me in touch.
Yeah.
So like that's all there is to it. But they said if there's someone you want to talk to about absinthe, this is the guy. Jesse from 2 or 3 years ago would have seen some of the stuff that Alan does and said, "Oh no, I can't touch that." But now it's like, well, he's kind of very much a part of that culture in a lot of ways and doing amazing things, and not what the stereotype says at all, right? Um, so I think, yeah, now I find myself in a cool position to be able to find people like Alan and then help bring him to a new audience and sort of show people that there's amazing people out there doing awesome stuff.
Yes.
So it's nice to be on the other side of it now and sort of be able to give people a little taste of what they expect. I'm picking on Alan here because he's not at all. But the first thing I saw was Alan's pictures of him doing the reenactment.
Yes.
And I was like, oh shit, there's a distiller in overalls and like with a big straw hat on and looking all old timey. Yeah. I was like, oh no. Yeah. And I didn't realize it was reenactment photos. Yeah. I never told Alan that. We'll have to talk about this, Alan.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now it's cool to be able to reach back out and collaborate with people like that. And sort of bust some of those myths in a lot of ways. It's fun. It's fun.
So I know you just did a podcast with Alan talking about absinthe and some old school absinthe, and you had done one before. What is the plans for the absinthe? Because I know with everybody, I know this is a whiskey thing, but like everybody with the absinthe, they're like, oh, it has stooge on it, makes you see the green fairy and all that stuff. What is that a stigma that you and him both are trying to like get away from, or I don't know, how does that work in that context?
Yeah, totally. So to give people a little bit of like backstory about what's happening there, the plan with Alan is to do, haven't figured out the exact logistics yet, but we started way back at the beginning in terms of the birthplace of absinthe on the timeline. We did a podcast about that, and then I made a video to go with it to try and recreate that historic recipe from the 1700s. And we've just recorded another podcast, which is moving forward in time to sort of the 1850s, 1880s in that area. I've got that podcast recorded, and I'll be making an absinthe video to go alongside it. And then we're going to sort of work our way through time up until current day, what's happening in mostly in America or around the world with absinthe and kind of new age absinthe. So the history of it was really interesting, and there's a lot of parallels with the absinthe as well as what we were just talking about in terms of why people have these ideas on home distilling. And the general idea is that absinthe made its way into France, started to get really hippie and trendy and kind of the cafe culture. So then the pomp and the ceremony started to take over, which is where you started to get all of the slow looshing out of a fountain and dripping through the fancy spoon with sugar. And at this point, absinthe had kind of blown up into the mainstream cafe culture of France. And in a large part, that was because of I can't remember what's the blight that hit grapes all through France that Iron Root's named after, because phloxolil or something. I can't remember. I'm a horrible historian. But it meant that France being France, suddenly didn't have wine. Like they just didn't have enough of it. And then when the new grape stock came over from Texas and started to build up the wine industry again, they suddenly had this problem of, well, we're making wine, but everyone loves absinthe. So there was this giant smear campaign from the wine industry against absinthe. And that's where all of these, it makes you crazy, it turns you into a zombie, it'll kill you, all of that stuff comes from that smear campaign. And it was pretty interesting listening to Alan talk about it with specific details of like specific stories they'd picked up. Don't need to go into that now. But a lot of that, what people say when they talk about absinthe is still going all the way back to that. And it's basically just unfounded. There's There's nothing to it. The alpha-thujone will mess you up, but there's more in sage oil, for example, and you can buy sage oil down near anywhere. A lot of people will say, oh, any absinthe that you can get now is not really absinthe because wormwood's illegal. That's not true. It's not. It won't make you trip. There seems to be some evidence that it is it does kind of alter the way you think a little bit. And a lot of people like Alan will say that if you get merry on absinthe, you'll have a weird dichotomy of being as drunk as you would be as you're drinking whiskey or something like that, but you're almost more lucid than you would be. So there's this strange, like, weird thing of being more lucid, but also quite drunk, which potentially is why a lot of the artists got into absinthe in a big way, which once again romanticized it, and sort of gave it its own life all the way through to now, right?
Right.
So it's, I don't know, man. It's just all these things coming together and people like just really not understanding the product. I think the other thing is that it's often bottled at absurdly high ABVs compared to most other products. So people see 75% on the label. They're like, oh shit, this is, like the only reason this exists is to fuck me up. Yeah, dude. But like loosh it down to 15%, and now it's wine.
Yeah,
But people don't think, don't realize,
So I just picked up a bottle, and I know nothing about absinthe. I only know it from what Alan has said in the first batch that you guys made. And I bought a bottle of Leopold Brothers absinthe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
No, I found it at the local liquor store. I'm like, who the hell even knows? I haven't even opened it yet because I don't have all the setup and stuff. I'm gonna get it, but like, to me, that is just a whole nother realm of awesome, like, deep diving into this whole spirit and trying to take it apart. So that might be a little spin-off that I do, diving into the absinthe. And I know there's a couple of other ones that Alan has recommended that you can find commercially. Yeah, but I mean, that to me intrigues me a lot. And the fact that he says, for you and other distillers out there, if you can make a good absinthe, that's like your magnum opus of being a distiller. If you can make a good one, then that's it. So that to me, coming from him, who I respect as a distiller, because I've tried some of this commercial stuff and it's pretty amazing. So but yeah, knowing that means a lot, because if you can make a good absinthe, you know what you're doing around the shop. So okay, so last question. I know you got other things to do than hang out with me. And
you're good, man.
As you can tell, it's getting darker and darker over here. I'm moving this little light around, trying to get more light in here. The last question I'll ask, because I would love to have you on in the future to get a kind of like a timestamp of Still It 6 months from now.
Yeah, let's do it again, man.
Where do you see Still It yourself, Chase the Craft and its conglomerate in 6 months?
6 months is a weird one, dude. Like, we're in a weird position at the moment. So once again, to kind of like, this is sort of more of a behind the curtains kind of question, I guess. And for the longest time, the answer to every question for us was just make another video.
Right.
Like, how do we try and make more money? Make another video. Like, how do we grow the channel? Make another video. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but it was very much the way it was for us. It was like, well, okay, now I've gone from being part-time to full-time. Let's step this up. How do we step it up? You make another video and you make it better than the last one. But we're in such a niche little corner of the internet that at some point in time, the straight up growth on the channel is going to slow down and taper out. Like, we're gonna unless something else happens to kill the channel off, eventually we'll get to the point. It's never going to be the channel with 15 million followers, right? It's just not going to happen.
Right.
We're not going to be doing millions of views. We're not Mr. Beast. We're not.
I don't want to be
PewDiePie. No, it's like a totally different thing, right? So we're starting to kind of get to a little bit of a turning point now, which is we need to start focusing on things that are outside of just YouTube, and using YouTube as a way to advertise other things that we're doing, and then do other things that make the community better for the people that are already watching us on YouTube. And to be honest, I don't really know what that's going to look like, dude.
Yeah.
But having Erin quit her day job and come online has sort of opened up a lot of possibilities there, in terms of both just me having a little bit more time, her doing the things that I should have been doing and I wasn't, and our different skill sets. She's very good at all the things I suck at, which is great.
Yeah.
So I just don't know, dude. And right now, the project that we were working on was getting the online store off the ground. And we've mostly done that. There's a few other little things that we want to tweak and change. It's off the ground. It's running. It's not nearly what we want it to be in the future, but it's kind of getting to the point where we can stop putting all the excess resources into that and find something else to work on. And maybe it is. Maybe the next thing we work on is the next tier of getting better products, more self-branded products into the store. I don't know. There are a lot of like bigger budget kind of videos that have been sitting in the wings that just haven't been plausible at the moment. Travel, like going and seeing more commercial distilleries, showing off cool new styles and new places. Pretty much what I did in Texas, right? But do that all around the world. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
The distillery takeover that we did at Andalusia, that's a pretty mobile idea that we can do in a lot of different places as well. And it's a really cool way to get face to face with people that are just internet names to you, you know? So that's something we're looking into. Potentially a home distilling competition that we can run out of New Zealand, because it's all legal here. We do have to pay the excise tax on it. But once again, that's a cool way to bring people together, and probably more importantly, get legit feedback from legit judges back to people that are isolated and making whiskey in their basement or whatever, you know.
Right.
So yeah, we're at a weird stage, dude. And I don't know. We're polishing off a project. We got to pick the next project. If we do this again in 6 months, hopefully I'll be able to tell you exactly what that project is, and hopefully it'll be almost finished, and we'll be ready for the next one.
and I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything.
No.
And also, you guys are doing a collab with Into the AM.
Oh yeah.
You know, I was hoping we weren't wearing the same shirt. That would have been really freaking awkward, you know.
Oh, dude, another little exclusive. I just got word from Into the AM that they are sending me samples of the Bigfoot shirt. And I know you were one of the people that were right into that. So
absolutely.
As soon as that goes live, I'll make sure I'll send you some vouchers so you can get one.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Okay. Before we go, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, your website, your YouTube, all that stuff. You have Patreon as well, which I've been a member of for a long time. Let everybody know where. Yeah, no, definitely. But let everybody know where you're at and where they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to find us on the website, it's probably the easiest way to kind of have access to everything. That's chasethecraft.com. So there's the retail store, which operates. We post from New Zealand and America there. And that'll have links to YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. Randall's one of the mods on our Facebook group. So yeah, behave over there or he'll sort you out quick smart.
Yeah, okay.
The YouTube channel's still if you jump on YouTube and at this point, if you type in just about any distilling related question, type it in and you should see my ugly mug and beautiful beard pop up in the first page. Generally, you can go from there.
All right. Well, don't jump off. I want to talk to you real fast, but
groovy, bro.
Yeah. I want to tell everybody, thank y'all again for listening in. I hope this was enjoyable for you. And until we meet again, keep your spirits up.